All right. Hello there, everyone. Let me just check if it's gone live everywhere. Just doing a very impromptu live today. Don't be alarmed if there's no video. There is supposed to be no video. It's audio only because I'm still having some technical issues. Yes, it's gone live. Yeah. All right. So I am having some technical issues, and because of that, I haven't turned my audio on. Oh, sorry, video on. It would be pointless doing it without audio, right? So, what did I want to talk about? It should be in the title. Well, the Southport terrorist, right? Everyone sort of knew, didn't they? But our esteemed Prime Minister Sir Keir still arrested them in his show trials. You know, Peter Lynch even died, committed suicide. God knows what happened to him in prison. These, we sort of knew like there was be a problem, right? So if you haven't heard this story yet, it has been out now that in the Crown Prosecution Service have announced today on Tuesday that the 18-year-old terrorist has been further charged following searches of his home address in Banks in Lancashire. Right, officers discovered a substance which was found to be resin, a poison found in castor beans, and it's shown that he had a PDF file titled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al Qaeda Training Manual. I don't know how he got that, anyways, but interesting, isn't it? And actually, why don't we know how he got that? We sort of know how he must have got it. Many of the mosques and these undercover, people who are working within the Islamists that are working within Britain would have provided him with that. That's how they groom these young people who seem to be lost for identity, or you know. Just lost basically, or lonely, and don't have an identity, and they give them this identity. So and also he has been charged with the production of a biological toxin, as I mentioned before as well, contrary to section 1 of the Biological Weapons Act 1984, and possessing the manual under section 58 of the Terrorism Act. So it seems, you know oh, hi Flossykins, thank you for letting me know you can hear me loud and clear. Yeah, so what do you say to that? Seriously, what do you say to that? It's something that people already knew, that he is a it's a standard, mo for these Islamist terrorists. Are we allowed to talk about the problems of Islam? Like, when are we supposed to talk about the problems of Islam? Once everyone's children have been killed like that? Are people not supposed to get angry? Were they not angry for the right reasons? Where do you think he got those PDF files from? Where do you think he was groomed? Do you think like he was groomed online? I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to push, right? Oh, he was groomed online, that means we must um safeguard people from being groomed online, crack down on all these radicals. And again, they'll just label people like myself, people like Tommy Robinson, people like everyone else who have been warning against Islam as, oh, they are the ones who are, promoting online hate, and they're radicalizing people for and against themselves, and let's capture them. I'm pretty sure this is the route that they're going to go down to, and not realizing, or probably realizing, they probably know anyways, with having like those 35, 40,000 fine young gentlemen on their Islamist terrorist list, that these people actually get groomed by the mosques, the specific imams in the mosques, by the servants in the mosques, and moreover so by just following their religion properly, in a way, right? By just following their religion to the letter, and following the examples of their amazingly great prophet, who also had a PDF file, I guess, who was a PDF file, right? Um, And yeah, that's the result of it. I'm just amazed that, I just get amazed when people don't understand that this is very common. This is very common way of thinking. We have had so many attacks in Britain as well. I thought people would wake up by now, but there would be a stream of liberal women and men who would come out and say, oh, but this is not the real Islam. What, pray tell, what is the real Islam? What do you know? These terrorist activities don't just happen in Britain, they just don't happen in West. They happen all over the world, and it's a common denominator. Yet we're not supposed to talk about it. If we talk about it, then we're Islamophobic, right? How screwed up is that? Now today as well, I was talking in the morning. I don't know if anyone caught me on Talk TV. um I was for like 9-10 minutes on Alex's program on Talk TV, 10 to noon, just for that short time period, and we were sort of touching on the news about the imam in Birmingham who has, they've heard him, however they've got him in his sermon saying that how women, wives should not withhold sex from their husbands, and they should not have careers, and and so on and so on. And people have been shocked, like, oh my god, this is so misogynistic. The charity has reported them to the watchdog. I mean, why are you why are you surprised? I mean, all you need to know, or all you need to do is, just probably just read Surah Nisa. Don't even read the whole Quran. Just read Surah Nisa and go through it. It's about the surah, the chapter is about women, and see what Islam has prescribed for women, right? What limitation, what restrictions they are, and you will see that Imam actually did not say anything that wasn't in Islam, right? These are not radical views. These are Islam's views, standard views. Now, of course, there's a difference between theory and practice. Many people would not follow all the things, right? That is fine. But but it doesn't matter, because once it's prescribed within the religion, and if let's say a young person is trying to find his identity, and he goes to the mosques and everything, and he's trying to prove himself as a good Muslim, then because he's trying to latch on to that sort of culture, that identity, you know why do you think he or she is gonna go, um you know half-arsed into it? They're gonna go full on, aren't they? So they're going to follow it to the letter. They're not going to say, oh yeah, but people usually don't do this in practice, because it's like, it's not really nice to do this in practice. It was in those times. No, no, these people are trying to prove themselves, right? So they're not just going to follow it, but they're going to follow it even more enthusiastically. And that's how you make terrorists. So the problem isn't that there are some radical people that do radical things. The problem is that Islam is a radical religion with radical teachings, and it is not reformed at all, right? And you know what? If Islam was actually reformed, it would become even more radical, right? If you go back to the teachings even properly, all these moderate Muslims who people think that what they follow, their moderate Muslim friends follow, is actually Islam. It's actually not Islam. All of those people would be in far more trouble than anyone else. Those are the munafiqs, the hypocrites, those who do not follow the Islam properly, those who say they follow the Islam but do not follow all the edicts of Islam. Allah has said in the Quran that He hates the munafiqs. He said to Prophet Muhammad that you might be able to forgive them, but He will never forgive them. Right? So these are the people who will never get any forgiveness. They don't have a say in Islam. They don't have a say in how Islam is run. Those moderate Muslims, they're best placed within the West, where they are actually secured by the laws of the West, or used to be the laws of the West, against the radicals. But you know what they do? They enable their continuation within a religion which is highly radical, highly misogynistic, highly terroristic, you know, even if that's a word. But like enabling terrorism, they enable that by continuing it, by fooling people in a way, because they are fooling themselves, that that Islam is what they think, that these moderate things, but it's not. This is why we get into a problem. And in talking about that imam in Birmingham, whatever he said, everything that he said is within the Quran, is within the teachings. He's actually not a radical in that sense. He's just telling them what the Islam actually says. How a woman is supposed to be married, and stuff, like within Islam. In Islam, the man is actually the protector of the woman, right? So, but the interpretation of that, to be honest, like moreover becomes like the control person, like the person who controls and who owns the woman, rather than the protector and maintainer of woman, right? So when a man even like marries um a woman, right, so he's supposed to pay mayor, right? This is after, like, they're married. So he gives them, that's a financial sort of sum of money. So he gives her a sum of money, right? And she's obliged to submit herself to him according to the contract. And once he's given her that money, or whatever that is, over to her, she has like sort of 2 or 3 days to sort herself out, so to speak, right? um because whatever is customary, or whatever like that. And after that, she cannot deny him. These are one of the rights of the husbands that he has over his wife, that he should be able to enjoy her physically. And this is how they view the relationships, right? Now again, you might say, but my moderate Muslim friend. And first of all, I don't care about your moderate Muslim friend, because they 99.99%, actually 100% of them, don't even know what's in their own religion, right? They can't even pray once, even once a day, because they don't know what prayer is. They don't follow any of the edicts. So I do not care. They're not in the conversation that I'm having right now, right? Obviously, this is not, this theory of itself, the edicts, it's not a theory, it's an edict of Islam. It will not translate completely in practice. It will depend on person to person, right? But then you're dependent on the man being a decent man, which are few and far in between such places, to not act like an absolute dickhead towards his wife. Why? Because he can, and she won't even have any right to divorce on that basis, because this is his right against her. So if a wife refuses to respond to her husband's request for intercourse, she has done a sin. It's a sin. It's a major sin. Unless, like, the only excuse that they're given is if they're going through menstruation, they're fasting, in Ramadan, or they have sickness. How very kind of them. How very bloody kind of them. you know and the thing is, like, they have to obey the husband. Before the husband, it's not as if, like, before the husband they have a free life as well, the woman, in Islam, right? Before the husband, any male guardian, even if it's their little brother, even if it's like 2-year old brother, whatever, they take precedence over, not 2-year old, I guess, but they take precedence over the woman, right? So the guardian, as like if she wants to do anything or whatever, she has to take permission from her father or her brother or whatever it might be. And after getting married, the husband is now the owner of this woman now, so she has to ask his permission to go out of the house to meet other people, but those other people that she's meeting cannot be men anyways. If she can work or not, like, and there's also discourse around that, that if she's going in the workplace and there are non-mahram men, like men she doesn't know, that she can't mingle with, so technically she cannot really work. That's a matter that is applied only in extreme circumstances these days, like in Afghanistan or something. But technically, if you wanted to go down the proper Islamic route, it would be that they should not be working, because if they work, then they have to mingle with men that they're not related to or married to, and they are not allowed to talk with them, they're not allowed to converse with them, right? They're not allowed to show them their face, their hair, whatever. So they cannot technically work. But that is sort of like that rule is bent, and people are working, in places like the Muslims within India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or wherever, all the other countries. But it can be applied any day, right? Look at what Taliban are doing. Taliban don't even want women to talk to each other anymore, right? And why do you think that is? Because they are applying a very extreme element of it, which is probably not actually interpreted in any other part in Islam anyways. They're weird interpretation these days that women aren't even allowed to talk to each other or listen to other women or whatever, is because of the changing circumstances that they are thinking, uh, because of all the NGOs who have women and stuff who are trying to educate the Muslim women in Afghanistan. That's why they probably brought those laws in, so that they don't get any ideas. You know what I mean. So, but at the end of the day, what they have applied is the law. So this is how, when these sort of Quranic laws and stuff are like that are there anyways, edicts of Allah are there, and examples of Muhammad are there. They can be interpreted at any extreme element, and you can't say it's wrong or anything, because once they're saying like the man, the husband, is essentially the owner of this wife, of this woman, and he's allowed to discipline her. She's allowed to she's supposed to be obedient to him. He's she should take permission from him for anything. Then they can apply to that extreme and say like, well, the husbands, all the Taliban ones, and fathers and the brothers, they do not want their wives and their sisters and their daughters to get educated or to talk to each other and stuff like that, because they're getting ideas and stuff. And so that's the law then, right? Because you already made a woman subservient, so this applies as well, right? This is why when people say, oh, it's not the Islam, it's the Islamists, no. What are the rules that the Islamists are using, or these terrorists are using? They use nothing that is not already present in Islam. They are using it, they are just following their religion to the letter, and adapting it to the situation, to the era that they're in. So if they're in the era of hyper liberalism and feminism and stuff within the West, obviously they're going to get more and more like, manic, because they cannot let women be free. The only place where these days I've seen like women being free, these Muslim women, most of all within the West, is when they're chanting and protesting wild things against the Jews, right? Because, and you know what, there's a part of me that thinks that the reason that most of those women are doing it, apart from their indoctrination against the Jews and stuff, like these pro Hamas maniacs that are chanting against the Jews, I think so. This is the only way that they can express something, that they can rebel, that they can be outside and they can, enjoy themselves, sort of a thing. I think so. Deep down, it's a lot of that as well. That they have a voice, and they can participate in something, no matter how perverse that participation might be. Because then, no man is gonna say, oh, like most of these weirdos, aren't gonna say like, oh, the women shouldn't be doing that because they're doing their job, right? They're protesting, the doing their Islamist propaganda. So yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So I feel like there's a lot of yeah, it's screwed up. That's I have to say, it's absolutely screwed up, and I have no idea why we have that in the West. It's why do we have to destroy the culture and the values and the traditions over here to accommodate this barbaric caveman ideology, right? This is this is a moment where exclusion would actually be better for everyone, and exclusion would actually even be better for these Islamic countries, because then their people would want access to better things and stuff, and they might have done a revolution within their countries like Iran is having, right? And then they can change. But when we give them in the West this lifeline that they can become more extremist over here, that they can propagate their mania and they legitimize their barbaric religion, it also makes sure that there is no revolution in those countries, because those the sane people over there have no recourse but to run away, right? They cannot start any revolution in their country because even the West legitimizes their Islamist by legitimizing the religion, by legitimizing Islamophobia, right? And these people, like one of them being myself as well, they get away from these countries and they come to the West, and they find almost similar conditions now. And we are supposed to think, oh, it's not Islam. Oh, my moderate Muslim, he is fine. Moderate Muslim fine, friend, like he drinks with me. Who the hell cares? When it comes down to it, is your moderate Muslim friend going to do any fucking thing? Is he actually going to save your ass? Because he's not. They're either gonna fall behind or they're gonna run away. And I'm tired of listening to that. Look, there's so many every day. Look at this news from Italy, right? That's today's news, isn't it? Or 27th, day before yesterday's news, updated on 28th yesterday. Schoolgirl 14 dragged behind a bush and raped. 14 years old, raped while waiting for the bus. This now waiting for the bus, 7:30 p.m. Like, come on. After man, Pakistani man, Muslim man approached her asking for directions. This is all what these animals, seriously, because they act like animals, so they'll be called animals then. This is all what to think about. I don't want to generalize like everyone is like that. Of course, not everyone is like that. But you know what? Like, we are having the most garbage mentality people from all over the world, inviting them into the West. How are we inviting them? By not dealing with illegal immigration. People who actually have skills, people who are actually educated, people who are not do not behave like animals, they usually, mostly, come to the West through legal means. And even then, there should be restrictions. But when these illegal immigrants that are coming in, we have no idea who they are. Most of the time, they're coming in from places like Pakistan, India, wherever. Yeah, there's no wars going on over there. Yeah, there's economic strife over there. Fine. There's economic strife everywhere. There's not economic strife over here now because of these people who are coming in. Right? There's no guarantee. There's no um, obligation for us to help the rest of the fucking world. How can you fit the rest of the fucking world and their fucking problems into this country? So when these people are coming in, what do we expect they're going to do? Do we think these people, mostly these people, I've seen a lot of these people, especially people who are coming from places like Pakistan, like this 40-year-old dickhead who raped this poor girl, right? They're usually coming from places, even within Pakistan, right, where they, even within Pakistan, they would not assimilate properly into the metropolitan cities of Pakistan. They're coming from far off villages and stuff. They might have lived in metropolitan city, but they won't have assimilated. They are probably the reason why cities have gone even worse. Cities like Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad have been getting really worse because of people like that, right? They are, they might not even be religious. It's not just like, this is the thing, these people is, they're not doing it just because they're religious, right? It's not because they are so in love with Allah and connected with Allah, that's why they rape girls and stuff like that, right? They just find excuses that Islam gives them a cover because it allows atrocious things to happen. These people probably don't know a word of Arabic. They probably cannot even understand it. They don't even know what they're praying, if they even pray, right? So it's not just about religion. Most of them, like, they use the religion for their nefarious, you know intentions. But it's the kind of it's the garbage immigration that we are importing, not just from Asia, but like, because I come from there, so sort of come from there, so I know that mentality really well. But you see that mentality in Africa as well, sub-Saharan Africa, right? So many interviews that you might have seen of the soldiers, the rebel soldiers and stuff, describing such casually, like, about raping women and stuff, as if it's just part and parcel of being a rebel soldier. It's like, oh, what else are we supposed to do? Like, sort of like, oh, we are tired and we want, sex or whatever, so we should just do, like, no regard for women. It's not uncommon in places where there's high illiteracy and poor conditions, basically backward, like where the people are left behind as a thing, and they haven't upgraded themselves at all. you know that's where Islam thrives anyways. That's where Islam has thrived, all those people. And you could say, like, Islam has probably kept them like that because it didn't want people to progress out of this mentality. I'm just i'm just angry, probably quietly angry sometimes, but I just don't know what people are thinking. I don't know what we're thinking is going to happen. you know what are we expecting? What what is the result of this, right? What is the outcome that we will achieve? Do you think these people will just, these all these people that are coming in, a danger to the society, a danger to everyone, are they expecting them to just become, to just westernize and just become good people? Because, you know they don't think they're doing anything wrong, so you can't even convince them to be good or not. They're just doing it as they would. you know this is who they are. All these years of progress that the Western society have made, the discourses and the advancement and the philosophical maturity that West has achieved within its society, all of it is being just given away, just given up for these ridiculously stupid and mad ideas. What are we expecting? I just, I'm just thinking about all those people as well who are in prison right now because they were deemed to be inciting violence, right? Yeah, perhaps. They're inciting violence, okay, while these Islamists are committing violence. But we're not are supposed to talk about these Muslims, right? You know, it's going to come down to it's going to come down to a point, a boiling point at some point, and it's not going to be pretty. And that's what I'm afraid about. We're going to end up throwing the baby with out with the bathwater because we're not getting a grip of things when we should be getting a grip of things. What justice is there for those people? What justice was served to Tommy Robinson as well? You know, what justice was served to him? He was right. He has been right about all the things. I know. You know, he hasn't said anything that I wouldn't have said, but he's prosecuted because he's a white man, right? Because he's a native white Brit. So he's prosecuted for voicing the legitimate concerns that every ex Muslim has been raising. And even on top of that, he is actually not promoting hate, right? So easy for him to actually promote hate, but he's never promoted hate. He's only told people about the problems of Islam. And he has been right all along. Everyone knows it. But you make up some bullshit things and you put him in prison. If it can, and then we have these amazing journalists, so-called journalists on TV, right? On even on GB News that we've seen today, that go on and say, "Oh, but he committed a crime. You know, he didn't obey the court's order." Yeah, the court's order was fucking bullshit. Okay, so if next day it becomes a crime to be a GB News presenter under the hate speech laws and you're put into prison, right? Then we will both sit in the gulags and ask each other, you know? So, was that a crime, bud? Huh? It's really people are, I don't understand. People are not waking up because they are afraid. It's not because they don't know, they're willfully ignorant. Because people are afraid to risk. But sometimes you have to risk things. And those people did risk things because they were scared, because they were angry. They wanted to protect their children. And for that, they were put into prison, and majority of the people went back, shut their mouths, and didn't talk about it because they didn't want to be caught in all of this. That was the first reaction of many people. How easy it is then for these Nazis and these commies that we have in charge to control you. How easy it is. They have you on a string. What is the point then? What is the point then being in this country then? What is the point then of being off this country? Why where it's not really a country, it's a prison. It's a prison of mind. As long as you follow what the party says, it's fine. And you stray a little bit, and that's it. You're gone. You committed a crime. You're not supposed to ask questions. Yeah? We'll put you in the wing with the Islamists. They'll beat the shit out of you in prison, right? Probably going to die. Probably going to commit suicide. We don't care. We're going to do an inquiry afterwards. We'll do an inquiry and we'll say, oh, there were facts that were not known that have come to light now. Fucking bullshit. How long did they know about this boy, this 18-year-old bloody terrorist, that he was actually influenced by Islam? How long did they know about that? I'm pretty sure they knew straight away. But you know what? They kept it pretty quiet till it was the right time, till they could capture everyone who was dissenting against the government, till they could capture them, and then, have the trial for Tommy Robinson as well, which was pretty much a sham. You know, it was complete sham, right? The judge was already reading from a already written statement on the computer. It's just bullshit. Yeah, Marco, you're right. Like, he's prosecuted because he threatened the politics of the sacred minorities, you know. And this we have a serious problem. Whether people want to consider this or not, we have a serious problem. People cannot talk about these things openly anymore. But we need to talk about this openly. We have a serious problem. We have a lot of Islamists that are in different areas in our governments. They are our solicitors, right? They are within the legal system, the justice system. They are within the local governments. They're within the civil service. They're within the police. They're within politics. They don't out themselves as complete Islamists, but they work for the Islamists. They might not be Islamists because there are two kinds of people, right? Of these the collaboration of Islam and communism that we have some of these people of Muslim background who are either become Islamists, and we have the other group of people who are of the Muslim backgrounds who might have left the religion or be of the religion, but they are Marxists, right? So they both are working together, and You'll see them. That's why you need to be wary of them, right? So you'll see them. They are working to bring the West down, and they're everywhere. You see a person advising the police, it turns out they're an Islamist. How many of them are there, right? How many of them are within our intelligence? How much is our monarch compromised? The advice that is getting to them. How much is the British system compromised by the communists and the Islamists? A lot, probably a lot, you know, but obviously not enough as well, because we still can say something, you know. So that is a positive, maybe. We can take that as a positive, that we still have a chance if we do something now. We have to. I don't know if we have to, do it by elections and stuff like that. So we need to sort of coalesce, like combine together an effort. Stop being so disunited. Like, all these parties, like, little parties here and there and stuff like that, who are getting, you know um who are getting divided up into little mini subjects in between, mini topics in between. Some of them going too extreme on the ethno-nationalist side of things, and some of them going too extreme on the civic nationalist side of things. They need to sort of, like, put their heads together. Even the Conservative Party, to a point, a lot of people who are within the Conservative Party, they need to leave that party. And if we want to do it peacefully, if we want to achieve our outcomes peacefully, which I very much hope to do so, we need to let egos go, and we need to combine. And we need to combine in sort of like a last ditch effort, but not like a last ditch effort. It's not as if like this is the whatever happens, Britain will remain, and those who remain loyal will eventually fight and win it back. Why? But I rather not have that whole period of 1 or 2 generations being wasted in this stupid fight that can be avoided. That's the main point. So I very much hope that people wake up, people open their eyes, people stop being afraid of being called a racist, of being called a bigot, of being called an Islamophobic, and just understand their enemies. Right. So this is the huge problem that we have, and we have that in throughout the whole political spectrum. We have forgotten how to differentiate between friend and a foe, right? And this is something that we need to get better at again. We need to understand who's a friend and a foe, and we need to understand the foes. We need to understand how they work to beat them, to counter them, right? We need to understand how they are, and we need to stop thinking of others as if they have the same mentality as us, right? Stop this over liberalization of your mind. Anyways, I'm going to end this now because unfortunately it's just making me more and more angry. It's just so obvious. The things are so obvious. You should be, you know, we shouldn't even have to talk about these things. What is the point of having a country if it can't even protect its own people, right? Just want you to spare a thought to those people, to the victims, you know, of this barbarism of Islam, to those people as well who are sitting in prison right now, having their whole lives ruined. Because people don't understand this, right? It's not just that you go to prison for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 20 months, whatever, as they've done to all those people who are in the so-called riots. They weren't really riots. Those aren't riots. They were just protests, managed by the police on purpose, probably. It's not just that they go for a few months to prison. Their whole life is ruined. They won't get a job afterwards in their own field. They'll probably have broken relationships afterwards if they were in relationships. They would have destroyed their relationships. It would have destroyed their relationship with the other family members and stuff. Right? They won't get references. They probably won't get loans. They won't get mortgages. They won't have a normal life. And you have now pushed them towards a life of probable extremism, because the bad faith actors within the society are going to pick on them then. If they are not helped by the good people, they're going to get picked on by them, and they're going to get groomed by them, and they're going to just propel bad things in the future, if they even get to come out alive out of. Do you know the experience of prison, especially when you're surrounded by hardened criminals? These people were not criminals. Yeah, it's just makes me angry and sad. But anyways, here's what it is right now. I just hope that, you know the best thing that we can do is arm ourselves with knowledge, and arm ourselves, and stop being ignorance, arm ourselves with knowledge, right? So know how our systems are work, know how we are governed, and don't be afraid to voice our opinions, and look out for each other. We really need to look out for each other in this time. But yeah, knowledge is power, first of all. So we must arm ourselves with the knowledge of who it is that we are dealing with. Stop being so naive. You know, you might not care about politics, but politics will come down knocking at your door eventually. You know, you're not spared the repercussions of the laws that are made just because you didn't vote. you'll get dragged down as well. So might as well be active. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Hope you all have a good evening. Apart from my lots of my doom talk, hope you have a better evening. And yeah, catch you next time.